Are you a Lightroom and Photoshop user like me who wants to incorporate Luminar Neo into your workflow, but you aren't sure the best way to do that? Are you sure you're using the plugin correctly to maintain a non-destructive workflow? And are you 100% clear on what that even means? Well, if you want to use Luminar Neo, but you want to be able to tweak your edits later and produce results that are duplicatable, then you're in the right place. I'm Darlene with Digital Photo Mentor, and in this video tutorial, you'll see my complete Lightroom and Luminar Neo workflow from start to finish. You'll learn 3 different ways to use Luminar Neo as a plugin for Lightroom Classic, and which option I use in different situations. So if you're ready to get started, let's do it. I've chosen a few images that I took in Havana, Cuba recently on one of my photo tours. She's a professional dancer that we hired to be a model for one of our photo shoots. To start, I've picked my favorites and done some basic editing in Lightroom. I do things such as select the camera profile that I like to use, adjust the tone. I transformed this image so that it was straight verticals, and added an edge vignette, as well as did some masking and some cloning. The original image looks like this. You can actually see me in the mirror, so I've used the clone tool to erase myself. But now I'd like to take this image to Luminar to finish it. I did one earlier. Let me show you the progression. This is the original unedited image. You can see her reflection here in the mirror. This is after my Lightroom edits. You can see that I've done some things to correct the verticals, erased a bit of her reflection in the mirror, and darkened the edges. I also was trying to create a bit of a glow from the window. The vision that I had for this image when I took it was that I wanted the light to fall on her and be very soft, but also dramatic. And I wanted the final image to have an old world, kind of rustic feel. But it wasn't doing what I wanted in Lightroom. Here's the mask that I added to warm up the corner, and I lowered the clarity to create a bit of a glow. You can see what it's doing here. So the initial glow was created with Lightroom, but I wanted to take it a step farther. So I sent this image over to Luminar as a plugin and created this final image. Now, let's take a look at the entire process to do just that. I'm going to start with this image. I want to give it the same kind of look and feel as the other one. So let's start by taking a look at the 3 different ways that you can send an image from Lightroom Classic over to Luminar Neo. To start, just right-click anywhere on the image, then you'll see this pop-up menu. The most common way to evoke a plugin is to choose Edit In, and then choose your plugin from the list on the side. In this case, you can see that I have Luminar Neo and Aperty installed. They're both Skylum-made products. The one we want here, of course, is Luminar Neo. The second way that you can send an image from Lightroom to Neo is to actually go down to Export. Now you can see various different export presets. However, there's also an entire section for Luminar Neo. You can choose Edit a Copy, which in essence does the same thing as Edit In, the first option. You can also get to the catalog tools this way, like Focus Stacking, HDR Merge, Pano Stitching, and Upscale Photo. Normally, if you just send the image over to Luminar, you will not see those available. For all of those, except Upscale, you need to send multiple images. So in this case, that's not what we're doing. But if you want to use Luminar to merge your HDR images, you need to select more than one bracketed image and then choose this option. You can also choose Open Source File. That will send the original unedited raw file over to Luminar. Again, in this case, also not what we want to do. I want to continue from where the image is now, not start all over again. The third way to open Luminar Neo as a plugin is actually to use Photoshop as an intermediary step. So you can open the image as a smart object in Photoshop, and then from Photoshop, open Luminar Neo as a plugin there. So let's take a look at all three of those methods, starting with Edit in Luminar Neo, the simplest version. The thing you need to be aware of when you choose this option, though, is that this is destructive editing. You will not be able to get back to Luminar Neo and change any of the settings that you do. But if you just want to go to Luminar Neo for a quick edit to finish your image, it's great for that. Once you've chosen that option, you'll see this pop-up box inside Lightroom. Whatever you've chosen as your export settings in Lightroom will be shown here. I use TIFF format, Adobe RGB color space, and 16 bits. You can use JPEG if you want, but if you've shot a RAW file and you go all the way down to JPEG, you're losing a lot of information. So try and keep the largest file and the most information possible as long as you're in the editing process. So these are the options that I use. Let's click Edit, and it should launch Luminar Neo and open the image. Here we go. Remember I said you couldn't get to any of the catalog tools if you open Luminar as a plugin? Notice there's no catalog module. So that's why you can't get to things like HDR and pano stitching this way. I'm not going to apply any presets. I'm going to go straight into Edit because I know what I want to do here. I want to use the glow tool to give it a little bit of soft effect. My favorite is Orton. So I like to apply this one, give her a little bit of a glow, like so. And I'm going to try sunrays, but I don't know if it's going to work on this image or not. It has to look realistic. I want to make sure that it's nice and warm, so it matches the image. And it needs to come from this direction. This is what I've come up with. I'm going to dial it back just a little bit in terms of intensity and mask it off of the top. I don't want the top to be bright. I'm pretty happy with that. Now I might finish by adding a LUT, which is the mood tool. I like the ones that come with Luminar Neo in the creative section that look a bit more antique, like wooden or smoky. Sepia actually works really well here as well. I'm going to go with something like this. While I'm here, I think I'm going to erase these marks on the wall as well. Luminar's erase tool has done a great job. I'm also going to use the portrait tools while I'm here to smooth her skin out a little bit more. I did apply a skin mask in Lightroom and lowered the texture, but it doesn't do as nice a job as the skin smoother inside Luminar Neo. So I frequently use Luminar Neo to access the portrait tools when I'm doing an image like this. There's the before and after. I'm quite happy with that. Now, to get back to Lightroom, all you have to do is click Apply, and it will save the edits baked into the TIFF that we created. So, as I mentioned, when we started this method, this is now non-editable. I can't take this back to Luminar and make any changes. But, as I mentioned earlier, when you use method 1, you can't go back and change anything you did in Luminar. If you want to be able to tweak things later, we need to use method 2. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to choose a different image in the same series for this one. So once again, let's right click, choose Edit In again, but this time choose Open as Smart Object in Photoshop. Now the image is open in Photoshop. You can see it's a layer. And this little icon down here indicates that it is a smart object. What that means is that if I apply a filter to this layer, it's editable. For example, I can apply a Photoshop filter. I'll just use blur, for example. There you can see a Gaussian blur. Now, when I click OK, you see that it's applied as a smart filter. This is a function of Photoshop that keeps your edits truly non-destructive. That means that you can go back at any time and change what you've done. It's not locked in. To edit the Gaussian blur, all I have to do is double click on the word Gaussian blur. The dialog box pops up again, and I can change it, including dialing it all the way down or up. I can also delete it or hide it just by clicking the eyeball. I don't need Gaussian blur, so I'm going to delete this one. Now let's do the same thing with Luminar Neo. Inside Photoshop, your plugins act just like a filter. So go up to the filter menu. In this case, we want Skylum and Luminar Neo. Now, once again, we're going to get exactly the same thing as we had a minute ago. The image opened inside Luminar Neo and the interface looks exactly the same. So let's just apply a couple of quick edits. I'm going to go with something like this. I want it to appear as if the sun is streaming in through the window, falling on her face. Once again, I'm going to apply the Orton effect using the glow tool, and finally a LUT using the mood tool. There's the same sepia tone look. I'm happy with that, so I'm going to click apply. Now it's going to save the image back in Photoshop as a filter, just like the Gaussian blur. See that? I can do the same thing here. I can delete it or disable it. I can hide it with the eyeball, or I can go back to Luminar Neo and continue where I left off by double-clicking the word. Here we go. Now I'm back in Luminar Neo. Watch, when I go to the Edit panel, over here on the History side under Edits, all the tools that I used previously are here. So I can go back and make adjustments if I want. Maybe I don't like the angle of the sun and I want to fix it or change it. There, I've created something a little bit different and lowered the overall look slider for something darker. Now I can go back and change the mood tool if I want as well. Let's pick something different. I found one called Crunchy Split Tone, and I quite like its effect. It's keeping the sun very warm and the inside blue. All I have to do now is click apply, and it will come back to Photoshop one more time. Watch it update real time. There you go. Now, the key to saving this image and coming back to Lightroom is twofold. You want to make sure that you go to File, Save. Only ever do save. Do not do save as. Okay, save as will create another file, not this one. So you want to save this one. When you click save, it will come back into Lightroom. If you click save as, it does not. So make sure you do not make that mistake. Okay, so click save or use the keyboard shortcut. Then to get back to Lightroom, all you need to do is close it. It's already saved. Lightroom will import the new file and you'll be able to see it as a thumbnail. And there it is, inside Lightroom, right next to the other one. So there's our Lightroom edit, and there's the Luminar edit. You'll notice that this one is a PSD. When I send images to Photoshop, that's my preferred file extension and file format. Now, let's say I come back a day or two later and I want to edit it yet again. No problem. But this time you want to open it a little bit differently. Still right click, but this time choose Edit In and Photoshop. Do not choose Open as Smart Object because that will create a new one without the Luminar edits. Always choose Edit in Photoshop when you're reopening an old PSD. Also, make sure you choose Edit Original. Very important. To get back where we left off before, you need to choose Open directly in Photoshop and Edit Original. When I click Edit, it's going to open the file in Photoshop. There's the image, and look what's here. The Luminar Neo filter or smart object. It's also referred to as a smart filter. If I want to go back to Luminar Neo and change anything, I can. Just double click the word Luminar Neo and it will launch and all the edits will be there. You can also continue to edit the image here inside Photoshop. Maybe I want to do a little bit more retouching. So I'm just going to add a blank layer called retouching. This is the best way to do cloning and healing. And I want to remove her reflection from the mirror. So I'm just going to zoom in. Then I'm going to use the patch tool. This one is really easy. Just draw around the thing you want to erase. Make sure sample all layers is checked off because of course this one is blank. And when I drag it down to this dark area, it will fill with content aware. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. I can finish it off with the healing tool. There we go. While I'm at it, I'm going to take out this little spot over here of light. So any cleaning up that I want to do, I can do here in Photoshop, and it will come back to Lightroom with these edits as well. There's my retouching layer, off and on. Now remember, what am I going to do? File, save. Always save. Then file, close. And once it's closed, it will come back to Lightroom. Now it doesn't look like anything has changed, but you can see the edits have indeed appeared in the mirror and the sun rays look a little bit different. Let me show you the third way to go from Lightroom to Luminar. I have a set of bracketed images that I took in Madeira, Portugal. To do that, just make sure that all your bracketed images are selected. Right click, and this time we need to go to Export and then find HDR Merge in Luminar Neo. Watch what happens when I click this option. Once again, here we are inside Luminar Neo, but this time we're inside the HDR Merge dialog box. I'm going to check my settings that I want to use and click Merge. And there we have the merged HDR image now open inside of Luminar. I can do any edits that I want here before saving and sending it back to Lightroom. So I'm going to use the erase tool to get rid of some dust spots in the sky. I also decided to add a little bit of structure to the rocks and hills. And then I used the color harmony tool to punch up the orange and the clouds a little bit. The tools that I like to use in Luminar Neo are ones that I can't do the same thing with Lightroom. There's no such tool in Lightroom, so I like color harmony. I'm happy with this. So once I click apply, it will send the finished merged HDR image back to Lightroom. And there's the image. If you use this process and you can't find your image or feel like it hasn't been added back to Lightroom, open the toolbar at the bottom. Just press T on your keyboard and then make sure that you're sorted by file name. Then the new HDR image will go right next to the originals. So just to compare, my finished Lightroom HDR is on the left and the new HDR from Luminar is on the right. In terms of tone and detail, they look pretty similar, but I wanted to compare to see how it would come out using the different processors. Before we move on, I have a quick sidebar, something I want to share with you, but make sure you stick around till the end of the video because I have a bonus tip coming up. If you're enjoying this tutorial and you would like more Luminar education, check out Luminar Neo, the complete course, 2025 version. I've completely redone all of the lessons to include all of the new tools and updates that Luminar Neo has had since it was introduced 3 years ago. This Lightroom to Luminar workflow is just one of the things you'll find inside the course. Okay, remember I said there was a bonus tip? Let's go do that. I have another image or two that I would like to edit using the same style as the first one that I did. Wouldn't that be nice if you could match the style exactly using the same tools in Luminar Neo? Aha, you can. Let me show you. I'm just going to take this one directly to Neo. I'm going to skip Photoshop because I know exactly what I want to do and I'm okay with cooking the edits in. That's the major thing that you need to decide. Are you going to want to come back and edit this later? If so, go to Photoshop. So I'm going to go directly to Luminar Neo. And now that the image is here, I pulled a little bit of a sneaky trick earlier. I saved the edit as a preset. I called it Old World. Watch what happens if I hover over. Looks pretty similar, right? So I can apply it and then choose to just dial it down if I want it less intense, or I can go and change the individual edits. In this case, I want less sun rays. So I'm going to dial the amount down, the length, and I'm going to mask it off of this door. The sun needs to come from behind the door, not over top. So we need to mask so that it's only in the middle part of the image. I just want the sun rays hitting her. It's not really working for this image. So I think in this case, I'm just going to remove it. But I still have the glow, which is the Orton effect, the mood tool, get rid of sun rays, and the skin smoothing. So I can still get a very similar look. When I click apply, it will save the image back in Lightroom. And there it is. It's not quite as yellow because of the sun rays, but it definitely has a similar feel. So if you have multiple images taken in a same setting or photo session that you'd like to have a similar style, just remember to save a preset in Luminar Neo, then you can get that back anytime, whether you come directly from Lightroom or through Photoshop as a smart filter. I hope you got a lot out of this tutorial seeing my Lightroom to Luminar Neo complete workflow. If you'd like to get a copy of my Luminar Neo or Lightroom keyboard shortcuts, there's links to those in the description below. If you'd like to watch another video here on YouTube, click one on the screen now. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.